then, okay, then we let him speak and everyone understand this guy gets it wrong every single time. And that's true of most of these warmongers.
Jeffrey Sachs just destroyed Lindsey Graham, and honestly, it needed to happen. While most politicians play games, Sachs dropped facts. No yelling, just brutal truth. Let's break it down.
The deep state narrative is deep. It's long-standing. It's not shallow. It's pretty much empty. It's pretty much concocted, but it's deep. And so in order to overcome the deep state, in this case, it's the Israel or Zionist lobby because it's got a pretty complicated domestic heritage and base. In order to overcome what has been 20 years of wars of choice in the Middle East and to stop them, it requires a lot of political capital and attention by President Trump. Just like in Ukraine, he's absolutely on the right track. But he's getting attacked by everybody for being on the right track. And he's trying to express America's real interest. America cannot have a war with Iran, by the way.
All right, let's pause right there. So, Jeffrey Sachs is already dropping some uncomfortable truths. And whether you like it or not, he's going after the real machinery behind U.S. foreign policy. He's not talking about left versus right. He's calling out the bipartisan addiction to endless war, the kind Lindsey Graham has built a career on. Listen closely. Now pay attention to what Sachs just said. It's not shallow. It's concocted, but it's deep. Translation: the deep state isn't some wild Reddit theory. It's a deeply embedded, decades-old system of influence, think tanks, lobbying groups, and political pressure. And in this case, he's pointing squarely at the Israel lobby. That's a political third rail in D.C., and Sachs has no problem stomping right on. Also, notice how he defends Trump, not as a fanboy, but because Trump, for once, didn't toe the war hawk line. Sachs says Trump tried to push against the war machine and got punished for it. And let's be real, he's right. Every time a U.S. leader even thinks about diplomacy instead of bombs, they get painted as weak, naive, or pro-Russia. This is a rare moment of honesty in political analysis. And Sachs is saying out loud what most senators are too afraid to whisper.
It would lead to a regional war. It would be costly, bloody, threatening. And on January 17th of this year, Iran signed a security agreement with Russia. So it would just open up another front of potential nuclear war. President Trump's smart. He's trying to avoid this. Everyone's shouting at him, don't avoid it, go to war. And for the president to prevail, he has all the authority he needs. But this noise is incessant. And the arrogance of a Lindsey Graham or the American Congress that thinks we can do whatever we want, wherever we want, and win whenever we want, when everything has been trillions of dollars of cost and one disaster after another, that arrogance actually continues until today. It's not fear, it's arrogance that's the fundamental driver.
In the face of, they haven't won a war in 80 years, so the U.S. military has not won a war in 80 years. So I'm not attacking anyone. I say that with sadness, but I don't understand on what basis this optimism arises.
The optimism is misplaced, let us say, because these people have gotten us into one debacle after another. And if, when Lindsey, I'm going to pick on Lindsey Graham again because he's been the biggest warmonger in the Senate. If when he speaks, if there were little logos on the screen, Iraq war supporter, this war, if people understood, okay, this guy's told you the wrong thing 5 wars in a row, then, okay, then we let him speak and everyone understand this guy gets it wrong every single time. And that's true of most of these warmongers. But I think, just to say, this will continue, unfortunately, as long as we don't have peace a little bit further to the west of Iran, and that is we need Israel and Palestine, 2 states living in peace, and not this plan that is the clean break that is breaking us, that goes back 30 years.
He's warning that a war with Iran wouldn't be some clean airstrike and leave situation. It would ignite the entire region, pull in Russia, and push us one miscalculation away from nuclear confrontation. And he's right, because Iran isn't isolated anymore. The second we launch missiles, we're not just poking Iran, we're dragging Russia into the fire with us. Now here's the part that should shake people awake. The US military hasn't won a war in 80 years. Think about that. Sachs isn't attacking troops. He's attacking the people who keep sending them into unwinnable disasters over and over with zero accountability. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, trillions spent, thousands of lives, and for what? Then he lights up Lindsey Graham, the Senate's forever war mascot, and it's perfect. Sachs says what every political commentator should say. If there were little logos on the screen every time he spoke, like Iraq war supporter, got it wrong 5 times, people would finally stop listening. And that's exactly the problem. These guys can get it wrong a dozen times and still get reelected, still get interviewed, still push for more conflict like nothing happened. And finally, Sachs ties it all back to the Israel-Palestine conflict, and that's bold. He says flat out, until that mess is resolved, peace in the region is a fantasy. The current U.S. policy, shaped by old neocon fantasies like the clean break, is still dragging us into chaos 30 years later. This is the type of clarity we never hear on mainstream news. And that's exactly why they avoid letting people like Jeffrey Sachs talk for more than 30 seconds.
In other words, the harder work even than avoiding the war with Iran is the United States finally telling Israel, come on, there's a limit. You reached it. You exceeded it. Those words need to be uttered. And they haven't been uttered to this day. 53 million deaths of women and children and everyone else. The United States needs to say, you crossed the line. We must understand that behind everything we're talking about, whether it's expanding NATO, whether it's bringing down Russia, whether it is fighting and bringing down Saddam or Assad or Gaddafi, the arrogance in Washington is the first point of reference. They don't believe this is hard. They don't believe it's costly. They don't believe it will go wrong. They screw up every time. They fail every time, and they get promoted every time. They don't go away when they lose. Look at Lindsey Graham. He's been wrong on every single war, on every single piece of American foreign policy, and he's still standing up there telling us what to do because there's no accountability.
But also no shame or inner compass. I mean, you would think...
Oh, of course, no shame.
But don't you feel shame when you're wrong? Especially when
you try to be right. Absolutely.
Your bad decisions hurt people? I mean, gosh.
Well, we don't have that. We don't have any reflection or accountability. And that is literally the case on all of this.
You never hear that from mainstream figures. But Sachs isn't scared to say what millions of people are thinking, that there's been zero accountability, zero red lines, and way too much tolerance for reckless military and geopolitical decisions. He's not just talking about Gaza or Iran or Ukraine. He's calling out the entire U.S. foreign policy playbook. And the central theme? Arrogance. Washington doesn't plan for failure because it refuses to believe it can fail. Even after Afghanistan collapsed, after Iraq turned into a nightmare, after Libya became a war zone, they still walk into the next conflict like they're invincible. And Lindsey Graham, Sachs straight up calls him what he is, a war salesman with no track record of success, no self-awareness, and no shame. They screw up every time. They fail every time, and they get promoted every time. Man, that line hits. In any other job, you fail over and over, people get hurt, money vanishes, chaos follows, you get fired. But in Washington, failure is a stepping stone to your next cable news hit. And Sachs nails it. These people don't even feel bad when they're wrong. No reflection, no accountability, not even a pause. This is why the system stays broken, because the people who break it are never held responsible. And when someone like Sachs tries to inject truth, they label him radical, when in reality, he's one of the few still connected to reality. Whether you agree with Sachs or not, you have to admit it takes guts to call out the war machine while it's still running. So next time you hear some politician beating the war drums, ask yourself, what's their track record? Who benefits from the chaos? And most importantly, who pays the price? This was bold, brutal honesty. And frankly, we need more of it. Stay smart, stay sharp, and I'll catch you in the next one.